Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are. My name is Brett Backus. I'm a managing director at Moray Global. And this morning we're going to be speaking about on-demand resourcing and how that can complement your legal department. We'll be talking about it through the lens of managing a Rubik's Cube and how you manage the legal department and the various aspects of managing resources, costs, skill sets, and capacity, which are uniquely challenging and interesting in the COVID world that we find ourselves. I'm joined this morning by Bill Mull, Darla Nijkamp, and Samantha Ann Horwitch. Before we get started, I'm going to let each of them briefly introduce themselves. Darla, let me start with you. Good morning.
Good morning, Brett. Thank you. Hello, I am Darla Nijkamp. I'm an attorney with USAA. I specialize in privacy, technology, and information security. Prior to practicing law, I worked for IBM for 20 years in multiple roles, including being an internal auditor and a global compliance officer. While doing those roles, I also went to law school at DePaul University in Chicago because I had always had a childhood dream of being an attorney. So after a time, I decided it was a great idea to move to USAA to fulfill that dream and to focus on the financial industry, which brings me where I am today.
Thank you, Darla. Samantha Ann. Samantha Ann, I think you're muted.
So sorry about that. You were correct. Of course, someone had to do it eventually. So we'll just start it off. And get it Good morning, everyone. My name is Samantha Ann Horwitch. I am the General Counsel, Chief Compliance and Human Resources Officer for Citylum United States, which is the North American Electrical Contracting and Smart City entity for Electricité de France, based out of Paris, France. I've been an in-house construction lawyer for about 10 years. I've really enjoyed being able to not only work on the on-demand resource side, but also as someone who hires on-demand resources to really have a perspective of each side and how they fit together. I am a graduate of Stanford University in Alabama and moved back to Texas shortly thereafter, where I have continued my practice.
Thank you, Samantha Ann. And then Bill Mull.
Hi, my name's Bill Mull. I'm a lawyer with Moray Global. By way of background, I'm a corporate transactional attorney with broad experience in the areas of general corporate, contract negotiation, securities laws and regulatory matters, and compliance. I'm a longtime Houstonian. I started my career at a full-service international law firm in Houston, where I did finance, corporate, and banking work. I then moved in-house, and that's where I've spent most of my career. I spent 11 years working for a publicly traded equipment manufacturing and distributing company. I did corporate and SEC work there, supported various operating divisions, and did a number of mergers and acquisitions. Then served as general counsel and secretary for a publicly traded oil field drilling company, where I did, again, the corporate and SEC work and supported the contract negotiation for the drilling work. And then I next served as VP and general counsel for a publicly traded seismic company. That company ultimately went through a bankruptcy during the most recent downturn. And so now I've been with Moray for just over 2 years. I've experienced serving in several capacities, including a number of different projects for the On-Demand Resources Group.
Thank you, Bill. And then I am the only non-attorney here. I've been consulting and advising to corporate law departments and law firms since 1990. I began my career with Price Waterhouse and joined the team of Arthur Andersen and many of the folks that I work with still together today. From Arthur Andersen, we moved to Huron, and then from Huron here to Moray. So looking forward to our discussion this morning. And I want to start with Darla and understanding a little bit more about USAA legal department, the size of the department, and the use of how they choose to use outside counsel, because obviously USAA is a very sizable organization in the law department. We're going to contrast that with Samantha Ann's department and look at how two different sized departments can benefit from utilizing on demand. So Darla, let's start with an understanding of USAA.
Thank you. USAA is a financial institution. Our purpose is to provide benefits and financial products as well as some discounts for our U.S. military members, spouses, children, and veterans. Our products cover areas such as auto, health, life, and home insurance. And we also have banking products, a full-size bank, as well as investments. And then we do major life event financial advice, getting married, having children, retirement, that type of thing. We started back in 1922 as just an automobile insurance company. So you can say we have definitely grown over the 98 years now. And we've continued to add services as our members have expressed a need for them, which is why we have, the different types of products that we do. Currently, we have about 13 million members, and in support of those members, there's a little over 30,000 employees. Now, to narrow it down to the legal department, there's about 400 attorneys and support staff. And our legal department is structured in a way that it aligns with the business. So there are attorneys who specialize in property and casualty insurance, different attorneys who specialize in life insurance, for example, and then bank type attorneys who all have their own expertise in the various areas of the bank, and then attorneys like me who specialize more in the infrastructure areas of the company. Now, with that kind of design and the fact that we're providing services to people who are working with different parts of our company, such as the bank and insurance, we obviously have a lot of need for cross meetings, cross dialogue, and interaction between attorneys across the organization. But it also means, especially with the changing financial regulatory landscape that seems to pick up speed every year, we also have need for additional bandwidth as well as very specialized expertise at the ground level, because we really need to make sure on a day-to-day basis, just with the business and as things change on the regulatory landscape, that we're always staying in front of it. We don't like surprises. So that is one particular reason that we definitely value the ODR model. We find it very valuable to say we need for a short amount of time some attorney with this exact set of skills, or differently, an attorney who has worked across various areas that all come together for a specific need of our business. So we will engage outside counsel and also bring attorneys in-house, not in-house, I'm sorry, but to work, side by side with our attorneys, so that number one, they're getting a really good feel of the company. Our company has a little bit of different culture from most companies, because we do serve a very specialized area of U.S. people, and also because many of our employees have been members of the military or dependents of military members. So we value that expertise also. So quite often we will pursue seeking outside counsel who also has that expertise, or even have military background also. As I mentioned, we bring in ODR when there's a specific need, but we also bring in companies like Moray when we can leverage the experience that Moray has in a certain way, and to enhance our expertise. That really allows us to continue to grow the skills and the broader expertise scope of the in-house attorneys.
Can you expand on that last comment a little bit as to how your in-house attorneys grow as a result of the use of ODR?
Absolutely. We tend to have, we tend to like our attorneys to work in different parts of the legal department, so that the cross-organizational expertise is built. But that means that we might have an attorney who has worked for, say, 10 years in property and casualty, may suddenly find herself working with bank. And we want to make sure that the client does not feel a decrease in the quality of support being provided by counsel. So it's very convenient to be able to bring in an expert attorney in that specific, say, banking area to work with the attorney to grow those skills. And you know, for a while you have two attorneys with you know, supporting what is typically a single attorney role, but then the skills are growing in the banking area, and also bringing to the bank, for example, the property and casualty experience, which in the middle of all that, we've got, like I said, that expertise coming from the ODR model, so that if there's a question that might be new to the attorney that just moved to bank, there's another attorney right there to work with that new attorney and actually provide the support in a timely manner. That's one example.
Got it. Perfect. So level of consistency. And I want to come back to some of what you're doing and how you're using it. But I want to compare and contrast a large department such as USAA Samantha Ann, can you give a review of your department, the U.S. department, and where and how you engage services?
Absolutely. So Citylum United States is a small to medium-sized electrical company, but it's a subsidiary of Electricity de France, which is the largest utility in the world. So we operate in 12 countries. Each country has a general counsel and 2 associates, as well as support staff. So I myself have 4 support staff, and then I'm a team of 11 other general counsel. And then in our French office, we have an attorney that oversees and is a liaison with our headquarters for each country. So there are 12 plus a global counsel. Internationally, we're a much smaller department than USAA, but when you break that down internally into each of the countries, the United States specifically, it's just us. There are just a few of us that are handling everything. I, as the general counsel, like to use not only outside counsel, but also on-demand resources because I truly am a corporate generalist. I know enough to be dangerous about a lot of things, but not necessarily enough to be fully effective about everything. And that's what a general counsel does. You really have to manage all the legal issues. Solom is a construction firm. We handle electrical construction, and we do street light, traffic light, city master planning, and platform software. And while this would look like something, I hesitate to ever say that I'm a construction lawyer, because at the same time, I handle contract negotiation, immigration, property real estate, litigation, wrongful death, mass tort, things like that, of everything that plays into actually running a full company. And what that means is I have to really leverage my resources, whether those resources be outside counsel that are assigned to us by, say, our insurance provider who has panel counsel, or looking at on-demand resources for specific projects that are very large that need specialized knowledge. We have a very large IP practice where we have some patented software and trademark information. And so bringing in someone who knows the intricacies of that type of law, not only domestically, but internationally, has been something that was a real benefit to us this year, because it's just not something that a general counsel is going to have the deepest knowledge of. So we take it as an opportunity to bring in someone, whether short-term or long-term, and to really treat them as an employee, make them as part of the team, have them get to know the company and what they're doing. But we utilize those skills to get a project done, but also to educate our in-house team on that intricate area of law. We are small, so it does mean that we probably leverage that outside for a little bit more and for a little bit more general things.
You know, so you bring up a good point about how you engage with an ODR organization, or as you bring somebody in. And that's something I wanted to compare and contrast as to how you did that. And Darla, I'd like to talk about how USAA does that in terms of maybe how much participation you have in terms of selecting your team members, and then how do you initiate work with them and engage with them? And Samantha, and you were really kind of touching on that in terms of you bring them in and have them be part of your team. Maybe if you want to expand on that a bit. And then Darla, I'd like to have you talk about what you've done with USAA.
For sure. So outside counsel and on-demand resources are very different. Our outside counsel are someone that they work for a law firm. That is who their reporting structure is to, and they're there to work for me. But ultimately, I am their client. I am not their team member. They're not one of us. They don't work for Citylum as a company. Our on-demand resources, on the other hand, we don't treat them or put them in an office that says, contractor or on-demand resource. It's project specific. We really treat them as someone who's come onto the legal team. We want them to get to know the company because we feel they bring specialized knowledge. So our on-demand resources, sometimes you may not know the difference between who is one of our full-time attorneys and who is an attorney that is a project specific that we brought in. They really work for us internally and are part of our team so that they can continue furthering our mission, where our on-demand resources, while our outside counsel, they do work for an outside firm, and we do have to make sure that line is drawn, as they are not a part of our internal team.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Darla. Darla, are you muted? Darla, I think you're still muted.
Is that better?
I think you're still, that's better. Now we can hear you,
Okay.
Darla.
A little bit of a delay there, sorry. We tend to engage, when we bring in on-demand resources, for specific reasons, we still keep it kind of clear that they are not employees, and we tend to keep them more focused on projects, unless we're using them like the example I just gave. But it's not, there's not some kind of a curtain between the ODR resources and us. It's more of what they're focused on than how they're being treated. We definitely value and treat them, as in-house pretty much. But for the most part, we will bring them in to focus on specific projects. Usually that's because of a bandwidth, because we need additional resources. We do run a pretty lean legal department. I know I mentioned, 400 employees doesn't sound that lean, but in the size of a company we do have, when new projects come along that are going to be a heavy lift for the legal department, we definitely will bring in on-demand resources for the duration of that project, and usually beyond that, because there's a life cycle that we need to keep the resources available for. But we also prefer to use the same resources, such as Moray, on an ongoing basis. So one project to the next project, to the next, because it starts to build a very good expertise of our company. And one of the things that we find very valuable about that is there's a much a decreasing up ramp, right? When a such as Moray comes in, there's less to learn with each project, less to learn about the company, about the project, how it fits into the overall picture. So you mentioned earlier, how do we select them? One of the key ways that we select is how quickly can they be incorporated into this particular project or into the particular need that there is, and how has that whole relationship gone in the past? That relationship is a very important thing for us. We are definitely a relationship-driven company. So it's really incumbent on us to make sure that as we are working with ODR, that we are building that relationship, that we're not just taking from them the expertise they bring, but we're also making sure that they feel welcome to be working, to be a part of who we are and want to continue that engagement.
Thank you, Darla. Let's talk a little bit about who an ODR attorney is. And I'd like to get to understand Bill and Samantha Ann from that perspective. I think frequently there's maybe a bit of a misconception about on-demand attorneys, and really the folks that we utilize and that are part of teams have significant legal experience and background. And Bill, you gave, and Samantha Ann both, your introduction at the outset of this call. I was wondering if you could maybe Bill first and then Samantha Ann, because you've served as an ODR attorney. Talk about maybe how or why you've become an ODR attorney, and how this experience is different and or complementary to prior work experience.
Sure, Brett. the reason I joined Murray is I felt it was a perfect fit for my years of broad and diverse experience. I kind of walked through my background earlier. So I have experience both as an attorney practicing law with a desired output and working within a department and improving efficiency within that department. And so with Murray, I have the opportunity to, in the ODR group, kind of work on project-based matters or simply overflow needs, where I'm kind of a plug-and-play attorney. And Murray's got a bench of experienced lawyers, different levels of experience, who are able to supplement and support the needs of the clients. As an in-house attorney who's managing a department for a department leader, it's really important to maintain a lean and efficient staff. And so we can come in and support, whether it's that overflow need or specific project work, and get to know the department and the people in it. And so we can step in without too much time spent getting up to speed on the transaction.
Thank you, Bill. I'll come back. I've got some questions about some of the challenges you faced, but
okay.
Samantha Ann, what about you?
So in a former life, I was an ODR attorney for Murray prior to my general counsel tenure. So I actually worked as an ODR for a large national construction firm, and I was placed there by Murray. That is how I met Brett initially. I was looking for an opportunity to go in-house. I actually didn't realize at the time that it was an ODR style position, but in exploring it, I really thought that it would be an interesting way to break into an in-house style role. I was brought in actually for a very specific purpose. I was brought in to handle and manage and organize the claims section. What I really think is telling of a good ODR, and I say that knowing I'm talking about myself, but what a good ODR experience can be is if someone comes in for one thing and is able to really pivot to handle other things in the department. So I was brought in to handle claims, and we thought it was going to be a much smaller, shorter term role that expanded and really became a long-term full secondary under the general counsel position, where handling all aspects of the law from the small workers' compensation claims up to SEC board compliance. It really became a position where I was treated very much as an employee. And to be honest, most of the other employees didn't know if I was an ODR or not. It was a position where the company was unsure if they had wanted to bring in someone to be a corporate counsel underneath their general counsel or not. They were building a legal department and wanted to test out that skill set and that dynamic. It was something I think that they saw as a success and continued to build. For myself, it was a very successful experience. Not only did I get to work with a fantastic company and gain more experience in an industry, but I also became very familiar with Murray and have created a relationship with someone who now, having moved in-house and is someone who hires ODRs, I really know the culture and the capacity and the skill set of a great company who I can call on and know that they will send me people who are quality ODRs, that are hardworking, that are specific to projects, or are general enough that we can use them in a full capacity pivot situation to expand our department.
Thank you, Samantha Ann. Samantha Ann and Bill, just real quick, what are the biggest challenge and biggest reward that you've faced or overcome as an ODR attorney?
Brett, you broke up a little bit, but was the question, what is the biggest challenge and the biggest reward that we faced?
Yes.
Okay. Well, The biggest challenge and the biggest reward, they may dovetail a little bit. The reward is getting to know the people and supporting, their particular function. I've worked on a number of different matters for ODR, and one was with an oil field service company, which is very similar to my background. And I just worked as a member of the in-house team, kind of like Samantha Ann mentioned, and took on various contracting functions. Also with a professional services provider. And in that one, rather than taking on contracts as needed, it's really more of a function, procurement-related contracts where I just simply handled the procurement work. I also have experience with Murray supervising work that we're supporting for a software as a service type company. And then the most recent matters that I've been heavily involved in are some compliance and regulatory work for a client where we're getting to know really their internal process and way of looking at the compliance and regulatory world. I might have dodged your question a little bit, Brett.
I appreciate the appropriate dodge.
Brett, I'll take the direct route. I've never been one to dodge a tough question. So challenge-wise for me, having worked as an ODR and also being someone who hires ODRs, I think that the logistical challenge sometimes can be mindset. That can be something that I now, as someone who hires ODRs, take very much into mind, because the person who is that on-demand resource is just that. Even if they're treated as an employee, they are still not. There is a different reporting structure and a middleman for that ODR. So they don't work for you. You are not the one signing their paycheck. They don't have the same reporting structure through the company. So you always do need to be mindful when you are either as an ODR floating up any issues you have or interacting on a sort of negotiation basis, or as the employer, making sure that you're using the appropriate channels of communicating things to your on-demand resources. I think that Murray did a great job on both sides for me of making sure that those communication lines were very open with the employers and very clear. I think the biggest success of being an ODR is definitely seeing your task accomplished. As mundane as that sounds, you are brought in on a specific thing that could not be handled by the internal department. Your success is when that is handled and if you can continue to do more for them. So when a company needs someone and they bring you in, what they want to see is they want to see those results. They want to see those results in a quick and timely way, because to them, that is integral to their business. It's part of their profit. It's part of their function. And it's something that they identified that they needed enough to seek out additional assistance that they didn't have in-house. So being able to see that you were a benefit to their team and you're a benefit to something that continued to drive the company's mission along is very much a success, and it's very much a feeling of pride.
Thank you, Samantha Ann. Darla, I'd like to come back to you and talk about, as the client, what are some of the biggest challenges, and then also what are some of the ongoing benefits of engaging with on-demand versus any of the other alternatives you could use for engaging labor?
Thank you. I'm actually going to borrow a phrase that Bill used because I liked it. The challenges and the benefits tend to dovetail. I'll start with the challenges. One of the challenges that we can run into is if the on-demand resource doesn't understand the difference between outside counsel and being an on-demand resource, and therefore is more in the mode of, here, I'll give you some advice, I'll tell you how we would do it, and then not actually fulfill the task, the ask that has been put into them. We always appreciate, the additional ways to think. We always appreciate, some guidance, and we call it effective challenge. But at the same time, there's work that has to get done. So being able to, for an on-demand resource to be able to kind of, join in with us to get that work done is a very important aspect. And that's where it dovetails into the benefits. One of the key benefits, and there are several, one of the key benefits of using on-demand resources is when that person will say, hey, did you think about it this way? And maybe we have, but maybe we only looked at it from 60% of that particular view. So we're learning and gaining value from the rest of that different view. And even if it's a difference of opinion, even if we have a lot of dialogue of, well, we see it this way or we do it this way at our company, there's always a middle ground that we end at. There's always a lesson learned, a gleaning of additional information that really helps strengthen the end result. So to me, that is one of the benefits of an on-demand resource is a fresh set of eyes. We all in all of our companies get entrenched in, this is how we think, this is how we do things, right? So it's very nice to have a fresh mind come in and say, think about it a little bit differently. And not, I've seen on-demand resources go both ways. I will say Moray is great at this, at doing it a very good way. And that is, if we say, great, thank you, but we can't proceed down that path. A challenge is when, they don't want to proceed any other way than what they recommend, or for example, Moray will say, okay, here's the information, and we'll do it however you've chosen to do it. So, but really that extra brain, if you will, that extra view, no matter how diverse it is from what we're thinking about, is a great benefit. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Darla. You did. We have just a few minutes remaining. So I'll close out with a closing thought from each of you in terms of why would you do ODR again? Which I'm going to assume that question is yes, and why would you do it again? So Bill, we'll start with you. Would you do ODR again? I'm going to assume the answer is yes, and why? I think you're on mute, Bill. Bill, are you on mute?
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Yes, well, the answer is certainly yes. I would do ODR again. I'm currently doing ODR. And I really do like it, Brett. And like I mentioned earlier, it's just a good fit for me. I've been in in-house practice and with a law firm. I've worked in a number of different capacities, and I feel like I'm a contributor to the clients of Moray with the diverse and broad experience that I have for many different types of projects.
Thank you. Samantha Ann.
I absolutely would do ODR again. One of my favorite things about being an ODR was the ability to really flex your legal skills and to continue learning. You sometimes go in as an expert on certain things, but you are challenged every day and given an opportunity to learn new companies, to grow, to meet a whole new group of professionals, to work with them, and to have the opportunity to continue working in a capacity that is exciting. At least it is to me. I would also hire ODR again in a heartbeat. I think that it's a huge asset to have great on-demand resources that can come in and supplement your legal department where you have the need. So overall, the experience of being and hiring ODRs has been overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you. Darla, I'll let you close us out with your thinking.
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. In fact, I can't imagine that there would be any extended length of time where we wouldn't want to use ODR. It really does give us more flexibility when we're looking at prioritization of projects or how many projects we can tackle at the same time, as well as I mentioned, early on, the ever-changing regulatory landscape to financial institutions.
Thank you, Darla. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Samantha Ann. And just for our audience, Murray is able to provide on-demand resourcing. We have over 800 team members on our bench and are able to provide a variety of skill sets across the globe, across any jurisdiction, to meet needs, usually at 50 to 60% the cost of a law firm. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Darla, and thank you, Samantha Ann. Great pleasure presenting with you all here today. Have a great morning and great afternoon.